coming to you from Israel and the Galilee, and it looks like the live stream is going okay. So we'll get moving here. Just check this real quick. Okay. Ah, so where are we at today? The 11th. I thought it was the 12th. Oh well, the 11th, Tuesday, and it's about 8:50 in the morning here in Israel, and our weather is cool. I think we're headed towards some rain. Let's see. High will be 80 today. Well, when I lived in New York, if it hit 80, people thought it was hot. Here, it's very nice. And if it hit 90 in New York, they'd get on the radio and call it a heat wave. For crying out loud, a heat wave here. It's 103, you know. And tomorrow we'll go in the high 70s. And we are going to rain, they say, on Friday and Saturday. But I don't know. It's only Tuesday. That's a pretty far reach for them to stretch out. I don't know how accurate they are with this. I'm not so sure, but it seems to me that they probably are. We're probably going to get ready. That's weird. Okay. So hopefully our weather continues like this for a while before the cold. I don't want to have to go to the heat. That runs your bills up. This year we're not getting any wood to use our wood burning stove. We can't afford it. It's a lot of money, and offerings are not the way they used to be. So we're gonna just use the electric as sparingly as we need to. The dogs generally don't care because we don't get that cold. I mean, the coldest you'll really ever see it in the winter is maybe in the middle of the night. It'll go to 39 or 40. Usually it goes into the 45, 48 at night. You know, that's outside. So in the house, you know, the dogs have, in the kennel, they have, you know, mats and stuff that are fabric, and they absorb the heat. And they don't like, well, Beulah does. Beulah will sit right in front of the heater until she starts panting, the jerk. Most dogs do, actually. The Pekingese would do it also, but Mommy won't do it. Mommy, she maybe, if it's really cold, she'll get 2 or 3 feet away from the heater for a little while. She doesn't like it. She doesn't. She does. She stays warm herself, you know. So today I'm going to go through the news and then we're going to talk about Elijah. I think the time is closing in on that. Okay. What's going on with this stupid thing? All right. Move along. I'm going to jump into the live stream, see what's going on with the new layout, which is terribly horrible. But they like to make things harder and worse these days. It's Satan. Um, just making life harder on everybody with his hate level. He's got a hate level through the roof, this jerk. Just making life harder on everybody with his hate level. He's got a hate level through the roof. Alright, now let's see if I can figure out how to get the to you text. One issue. Such a hard thing to work with now. Let me lower this. Oh, gosh, this is the wrong thing. Okay, let's see if we got any questions in the chat. I live in Israel, guys. Have for many years. It's an American accent you're hearing. New York accent. No, we don't worry about mezuzahs on our door. Where in the Bible did you ever read that in the Old or the New Testament that people were supposed to put a mezuzah up and go like this? I never read it. Did the apostles ever do it? No. No. What do they put inside the mezuzah anyway? Do you know? Check it out. Okay. It's micro print. You couldn't even read it if you took the mezuzah and opened it up. You'd need a magnifying glass, a big one maybe. Maybe that wouldn't even work well enough. I don't know. Okay, enough on that. Let's go through what's going on. Oh, let me do some praise. Being a Bible believing site, Old and New Testament. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, so where are we going? We're going to the news. Kushner, that's, you know who that is. That's the thing that's married to what Trump refers to as his daughter. And Kushner is a relative of Trump. So, does anybody know the term nepotism? Well, I could explain it to you. It means hiring your relative with an implication of special concessions and favoritism in terms of the hiring and the treatment. I don't know any other president that did nepotism, yet Trump does it openly and blatantly. Last term he did it, the last term he was in, and now he's doing it again. And people just don't, they're so dumbed down. They don't care what dumbs people down. The internet, artificial intelligence, Netflix, and that sort of thing, you know, Disney Prime and Hulu and all of those, right? That dumbs them down. And they put witchcraft and spells on all of those movies and pictures. That's how they sell things in America. Computer games, watching sports, that's a dumb down if I ever saw one. People sit there on their day off on the weekend and they put the TV on and they watch, you know, multiple events of sports all day long. It's crazy what they do. There it is. It's bizarre. Why? I don't know. I don't even know who won the World Series this year. You know, I don't even care. What difference does it make? Do you think I care who's going to win Super Bowl? What's the point? Who cares? I don't know what they call the basketball World Series or Super Bowl. They must have one. I don't care. It's ridiculous. Do I think it's wrong for kids to get out there and play ball themselves in the real world? Oh, no, it's a good idea. That's how we grew up before they had internet and before they had cable TV. We had rabbit ears on the TV or a roof antenna, and when it snowed, you saw snow on your TV in black and white. And when you had rain and lightning, you had interference. You had a bad signal. So did America get dumbed down with television? I can tell you they did. When I grew up, we watched TV, but there wasn't much TV to watch. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't that enthralling, okay? For the young people. The older people, they got involved with it too much. They came home from work. Well, back then the woman didn't work, the man worked, the father worked. He came home from work, he changed his clothes, depending, sometimes he took a shower, depends what he did, blah, blah, blah. The mother would have the meal waiting, and then in a lot of cases, the kids and the parents would eat together. And they would actually talk. And they were actually in real life. They weren't SMSing. Nobody had a cell phone. Nobody knew what it was. And they talked to each other. We knew that, you know, in World War II, we had walkie-talkies. They were big things. You know, that stuff existed. But we had interactions with other people. We weren't getting brainwashed, and along came TV, and we started getting brainwashed. Okay? How? Well, they started telling us what people should live like. And they had a lot of very popular shows. Leave It to Beaver. Um, Father Knows Best. Let me think of some others. Those were two prime examples. And they showed happy, healthy, thriving families. But what? God wasn't in it. God wasn't in it. And if they did depict God on the shows, they depicted normally a Catholic priest in church, but that came later. So that's what they did. There was another show, My Little Margie, about a father with no wife and a daughter that was probably about 21, and dating and stuff like that. Um, they had a lot of westerns. The westerns were always gunfights. The star of the show would kill somebody every day, every show. Shows came once a week. They weren't like they used to be. They would do 25, 29 shows a year. Okay? Today they do what, 12? They used to work for their money. They didn't get paid that much money. They were, look, they had enough to go buy a Cadillac and a nice house and take vacations, but they weren't buying mansions and private planes and yachts. They didn't get paid that well. They were very comfortable, I would say. And a lot of them were living in Beverly Hills where they had the big witches' covens. And they would move there if they were in the inward circle. And that would really much, help them, probably assure them furtherance in the entertainment business. And they were mostly buying houses they weren't buying 1,600 square foot houses. They were getting 3, 4, 5,000 square feet in Beverly Hills. And they would have, maybe a third of an acre, a half acre, an acre. Some of the more popular stars, 2 or 3 acres. Lucille Ball was pretty big when she had a show, I Love Lucy, and she was living in didn't even have a fence, her house, and it maybe was 3,500, 4,000 feet, something like that. Now they used to put a pool. It was pretty mandatory. They all had a swimming pool. That was status. But what the heck did a swimming pool cost back then? $2,000, $3,000. They had the pool, and then they would build a guest house near the pool. Usually a 1 or 2 bedroom, maybe 8, 900,000 square feet. Some people could come and stay there. And they didn't put big fences around their properties that much. And, what did they do for staff? Well, most of them didn't do that much. They would have a gardener and a handyman that would not necessarily come every day, a gardener, and they had maybe a maid and someone else, like a butler sort of chap that would sometimes they had a cook, and it would vary. Now, in the middle of this, they did have people with big mansions there, but they were normally the owners of the movie studios and the directors and the producers. These were the people making the big money. The actors were getting paid well, but not that well. Okay. I knew a woman that was in show business. I don't know if she's still alive. She's probably about 100. I'm serious. I know she was alive a few years ago. She was married to a friend of mine for a few years. They broke up. I always got along with her. She was a rather pleasant lady, and she had a number of husbands. I mean, she could go through them like I'm unbelievable. But anyway, she was in show business as a kid. Okay, now she was probably born in the 1920s, the late 20s maybe, or in the 20s. Maybe not the late 20s, maybe in the mid or the early 1920s. She was very old, and she basically worked in show business, and she got hired at the studios. Um, at one of the studios, I can't remember which one. And she told me that when they got off work, she was, singing, dancing, stuff like that. When they got off work, she said they would stand like inside the gate. So, in other words, you couldn't get into the studios. They had security guards unless you had a pass or, which the kids did because they worked there. So she would wait inside the gate for the movie stars to leave, her and the other kids, and they would hitchhike. And the big Clark Gable used to give them rides. So it was funny, she'd be hitchhiking and Clark Gable would give them a ride home or near their house or something. So she went through it and she talked with me about it, a little bit, but she talked with my friend a lot. I think they're both dead by now, I know my friend, I believe he's gone. So they they talked, and they learned a lot about it. That's where the real money was, Uh, so the movie stars, some of them had a large house. What would be large would be 5,000, 4,000 square feet. That's a pretty good sized house. And it would be in a lot in the Beverly Hills area, and it would just be on grass, and they didn't put fences up. So you could park your car in front of the house, walk down the walkway to the house, and ring the bell, and that's where the movie star was. But what would happen is the maid would come to the door, and if people started acting funny, they'd call the police, and the police would race over there. So anyway, the TV shows were godless. God didn't exist in the TV world. So right away, the people were too dumbed down. Americans weren't that smart, and they were dumbed down by the magic of TV. And mind you, back then the screens were 17, 19, 21 inches. In the 70s, we started seeing 23, 25 inches. Not in the 60s. You were seeing really just that 21. And then they had a lot of people would just get what they called a portable TV. I don't remember. Maybe I had another name for it. And you could get them, usually they were 19 inches, 17, 19, even 15. You put it on a stand that had a handle like a suitcase so you could carry it. And then they had I guess you call it console TV, where they put it in a really nice wooden cabinet. Okay. And people would have those. And it was, I don't know, some of the housewives felt it looked better with a big cabinet. A lot of them just looked like a big piece of furniture, and you had to open up the doors to actually see the TV in there. And then they got cute and they started building big cabinets, and you had a TV in there, and then you had this is when they had hi-fi, they called it. So we're looking at very late 50s into the early 60s. So you had an AM FM tuner, and then you had a something for power, and then you would sometimes really built into the tuner, and you had a turntable where you put the vinyl disc, the record on, and then at the end of each end of this 6 or 7 foot long piece of furniture that was waist high, there would be a door, and it would have a fabric that was very, very porous. And in there would be a big speaker in each side. And the speakers were paper, with a big magnet in the back. And you had amplifiers, so the tuner and the turntable ran into an amplifier that would put power into it, and you'd have a loud sound. Now, this is pre-stereo. This was hi-fi. So it reproduced the sound off the records better than you ever had before. It used to be what they did before. Seriously, they had a turntable, and it had like a megaphone device in there that would throw the sound out in the air, and then it got to a point where it would amplify through a speaker. But it was real tinny. Oh, it was real tinny. But before they had nothing like it. That was like miraculous. So while you marvel today, this is a good point, about you're seeing videos of artificial robots, artificial intelligence robots. I put them up on my Telegram. And you say, this is going to really change things in wreck society. You're right. But what really, really wrecked society was initially the printing press. Yeah. It helped. It was good and evil. Like the tree, good and evil. It allowed the printing of the Bible, maps, things like that. And then it also allowed evil to get printed. Okay, so the TV, the books were bad, but the TV, and also they made pornography back then, but it wasn't photographic pornography. It was with words, it was text. Okay, then they went to television. Well, you actually had radio first. And was radio that dynamic? No. It was tinny. They didn't have Wi-Fi. They didn't have hi-fi. They didn't have stereo. And the music was tinny, but you could listen to the music, and they had news on there, and they had talk shows and comedians like Groucho Marx with his show, You Bet Your Life. It started on a radio show. The guy that did the Dragnet TV shows, Jack Webb, he started playing a private detective on the radio. If you ever want to listen to how talented these people were, you go, and YouTube has some old radio, YouTube has some old radio shows, and some of them are a lot better than others. The old detectives, Philip Marlowe, the people that did this were excellent. Sometimes I just sit and listen to these things. The talent level was so much higher than the motion pictures. What is it that they really go to work on motion pictures? The set, right, where it's shot, or it could be, the location. They could be at the Eiffel Tower. They could be at, the top of Mount Everest or whatever, right? The location and the set, and then the clothes and the makeup. And then beyond all that, when that's all done and said and finished, comes the talent. And in my opinion, 90% of the actors on television and movies have lousy levels of talent, really low. Okay? All this other stuff distracts. They're so bad today when you see fight scenes in the more recent movies or TV shows, everything is in the dark and blurry. There's almost nobody that tries to make a really good fight scene like Bruce Lee used to make them, um, and Chuck Norris actually did, uh, and in the westerns they did. They actually, but they don't even bother doing that anymore. They just fudge it, you know. Um, the guys that made the westerns for TV in the 50s, they had to learn. Most of them had to sing, yeah, and they had to learn how to ride horses. Yeah, really ride horses, and they had to learn how to, make believe guns, make believe gunfight, and make believe fist fights, and also rifles sometimes. Now, in the middle of this, in the dirty old West riding horses, they wore the most elaborate costumes you could imagine, you know. Um, and gunfights was something that never existed in the Old West. There was one recorded gunfight where they went out in the street and threw down on each other. What they would do is bushwhack each other, shoot the guy in the back or get the jump on him. They'd be gambling. A guy would be cheating. He'd pull a small gun out and just shoot him right at the table. That's not a gunfight. It's a murder. A lot of them had Bowie knives. Was popular back then. Bowie knives are very deadly. They'd have the handle over here. They'd reach up and just lean across the table and cut the guy in the head. Just smack his head open. A Bowie will open your head up if you put a little force to it. It will. So they portrayed in the West murdering, and they portrayed going to the bars all the time. Everybody's going to the bars and drinking alcohol. That was not the case. Some of the big cities, like Abilene and Wichita, and they were getting the railroad, and there was cattle drives where they would bring the cattle into the town where they could pen them up and then sell them, and somebody would load them on the freight car, and they'd send them somewhere to be slaughtered in the even bigger cities like a New York or a Chicago or maybe a San Francisco even. And these people would come in after being on the trail for, weeks, and they'd be filthy, and they would go to a hotel, and they would, clean up and go to the barber and get shaved and a haircut and maybe buy new clothes, because their clothes could have been so filthy and worn out by then there was nothing left. And they go to a lot of them, I suppose, would go to the bars and unwind. Some of them had shows and this and that, and they probably had to kill a few days there to wait for the boss to sell the herd and pay them and get book transportation back where they came from or whatever they were going to do out of it. So the westerns were so popular in the 50s, that's all you saw. Not really, but you saw a ton of them. Then what else you saw was these family shows like Father Knows Best. Later in the 60s, you had Dennis the Menace. And, some of them were more serious than others. Some of them were just comedic, comedies. And it just kept going like that, And then they had the variety shows like Ed Sullivan, where we'd have different, like, trained seals, trained horse, singers, a gymnast, the different people, Um, So they were controlling people. They were telling people how they had to act. Okay? And people were buying into it. Oh, we're going to do what they do on TV. Then they learned they could brainwash the people into buying crap. So there was George Burns and Gracie Allen had a show in the early 50s. It was a comedy. They were pretty funny. And they used to sell pet evaporated milk. Convinced the people they needed to buy evaporated milk. What for? Then they were doing hair shampoo. Oh, you got to buy Breck shampoo for your hair. And, then you got to buy Coppertone suntan lotion. And you got to buy this and you got to buy that. And then they were selling toys to the children. They learned how to do that. And the kids just would, they would show the kid with their friends and they're playing with the toy and they're having a great time. And the kid just gets overly excited. Oh, I need this. Mommy, I need this. I need. And that's where they started ruining America. So is artificial intelligence going to ruin America and other countries? Yes. But it's not unlike television and radio and the printing press. And then after that came the cable TV. The first cable TV I remember was in the 70s, late 70s, and it was in California. It was about $3 a month or something. And you got maybe 6 or 10 channels, but what it did do is give you perfect reception all the time. So if it was raining or storming, you had very good reception. You didn't have to worry about it, right? That wasn't so exciting. In the big cities, like in New York, in the early 70s, like 74, maybe mid 70s, you were able to actually buy movies that were playing in the movie theaters. They had that already. And that's like, 50 years ago, they were doing that already. And then as, the cable got a little better and you started getting like, 15 stations. This is in California now, San Francisco. And people still didn't watch it that much. And you had really good receptions, but it wasn't so great, you know? And then in the 80s, you started having flat screen or large TVs. So things kept evolving. And this thing with the robots is going to be really bad if prophetic time allows for it. People are going to start bonding to the robots like humans. Yeah? Yeah. It'll destroy people's lives. Got a prayer request or two here. Let's deal with that. Prayer for a cat named Foxy. Healing and safety and protection. For Foxy the cat, healing, safety, and protection. For Foxy the cat. And a prayer request for EB, Echo Bravo, EB, Echo Bravo, still needs healing for a hand trauma, an injury in a hand. Healing for EB, healing in the hand. Okay? All right. So Kushner, with the nepotism with Trump, is going to meet Netanyahu in Jerusalem to discuss phase 2 of the peace plan in Gaza. Well, we're not in phase 2, I don't think, because the fighting's never stopped. We're bombing every day. And the 200 people holed up in the tunnels are not civilians. These are people that are wanted for October 7th and other things they did. And they recently killed some soldiers and injured some soldiers, and they're hiding in the tunnels to hide from the IDF. And now they want us to give them a safe escort out of the country or some nonsense like that. And we're not doing it. Trump's got no other countries to do the disarming that I know about of Gaza. The UAE came out with a statement and said, no, we're not in, we're out, we're not doing it. So the only one that'll do it is Israel. Trump ain't gonna do it. You know, I gotta get the door in. I'm worried now. Hold on. Somebody's out there working on the house, and I hope he didn't mess the door up. Mommy! Hi, I know, but I want to bring her in. Well, how are you today? You want to come to my office and work with me? Come on, come work with me. Come on, you want to come in? Come here. You can go to work with me. You can say hello to everybody. You want to say hello to everybody? Come, Mommy, come. No, you can come here. She won't come in here because it's still Chief and Yafa's turf. Even though they've been deceased for quite a while, she still remembers it's their space and she won't violate it. She won't come in. I gotta drag her in. She respected them. Okay, I miss them. All right. This Kushner guy owns 250,000 apartments that his father gave him. He's not a self-made person. And he knows nothing. Nothing. How could this idiot, I mean, he's going to work with him. This is so stupid. So stupid. Okay, so the Houthis are already saying that they're going to resume attacking ships in the Red Sea and attacking Israel and everything else if the ceasefire with Hamas doesn't hold. Their interpretation of the ceasefire with Hamas not holding is disarming them against their will, and they have no will to disarm. So the Houthis are going to kick into gear again. This is what you have with this moron Netanyahu, you know, the curse of Israel. I haven't heard anything yet now, again, about the vote of no confidence, so that might have gone away. They might have been saying, well, we're going to lose Trump if we do that. Trump sent ground forces in to train in Panama. Panama has these jungles, rainforest type jungles, right? I've been in a rainforest type jungle. It's as soon as you walk in, it's dark because it's so dense, and it's so full of life in there. But it's brutal. Like they got cutter ants that are eating and cutting grass, and you got all kinds of bugs eating stuff, and it's damp and moist and hot, and everything's growing, and you got reptiles in there and other things. You got snakes that'll hang from trees and get you. It's real. They don't eat you. They just get you to bite you. They're nasty. You got all kinds of animals in these things, and there's death in there all the time in these places. Things are just killing vegetation and killing each other. It's not a great place. So anyway, they're training in Panama, and Venezuela and Colombia, Trump's two targets right now, have these type of jungles. So that's what he's doing. Now, my question is, they haven't trained in the Panama jungle for, I think, since around the year 2000 when they left Panama. So I don't know who they got in the army that is skilled in jungle warfare anymore, unless they've been training elsewhere. I don't know. Good question, right? Well, they could have a few guys that are hanging around all this time. I don't know. There's a term called green hell revised as Trump shifts the military focus to Latin America and the jungle warfare. It's very unpleasant, the type of thing. In Vietnam, it went on, but gosh, those guys are probably deceased, mostly, or very old people. So Trump's cranking that up again, and I guess Panama is letting them or helping them, or or doesn't care. I don't know. And Colombia has these jungles like Panama, and Venezuela has them, and that's obviously what he's trying to get them ready for. Now, why? Because if he's going to overthrow the country, they're going to become like Che Guevara or something and go live in the jungles and then come out and attack the American troops or the new president that works for Trump indirectly or something. So they want to bring the American troops up to speed to be able to go in there and get them. The French Foreign Legion trains in jungle warfare down in that area. They've got some countries that they are very influential in South America, and they train there. They train them in working with alligators and stuff like that. Crocodiles are really more or less in Africa, and they're more aggressive. They got caiman or caimans, and it's basically like an alligator. They're not that aggressive, but they can be. The alligator is generally going to be dangerous if you're at the water's edge or in the water. If you're right at the edge of the water, I mean you're within a foot or so of the water, it'll drag you in. And then they spin you around, then you get confused, you don't know where you are, and the guy drowns you. And then they usually hide you somewhere under the water to soften you up, and then they eat you. I mean, them eating us is like you eating a fish. Okay, so the other way you have trouble with alligators is the jerk wanders off onto land someplace, right? And he gets scared, and I don't know why he left the water to start with, but maybe he had a reason, I don't know. And it's hot and sunny, and he's building up heat, so he might go inside bushes where it's cooler, and then somebody comes along and tries to trim the bushes, and he thinks he's being attacked and grabs their hand and then tries to twist it and stuff. And if you're a woman of 115 pounds and he's a 6 foot gator, or his head's like this, and yeah, he can break the hand, break the arm off. He can cause a lot of problems, but they're generally not going to eat you when they're away from the water. They're nervous, they're scared, they don't like that. But they will, that's defensive. Or you go and they go in your cool garage because the door was open and they crawl under the car because it's cooler and they have cover. And they don't understand that the garage door might close at night and they're going to get trapped in there. They don't know there's a garage door. They see the garage door as a cave, it's a cave. They don't imagine it getting covered up. So you're in the garage, either day or night, and you might smell him or hear him move around, and you see him. He's probably never going to attack you while he's hiding under the car. But the correct approach is to go in the house and call, Fish and Game and tell them what happened. And they dispatch a alligator catcher to you, which is a private guy that gets paid nicely. And he'll make his way over there with his pickup truck and equipment, and he'll get the gator out of there and get him in the truck. And usually there's two of them. Get him in the truck with some sort of a kennel thing, keep him wet and everything, and take him someplace safe where they could be released. Another problem area is some of these idiots would wind up the gator going into going from their water to brackish water or salt water itself. So they wind up going into the Gulf of Mexico, and then they would come out on the beach at Panama City. They'd walk it because they don't like being in that water. It's very irritating to them. So they would go for dry land, and they would be walking around the beach where people are on the beach. And the best thing to do if that, now they're not hunting the people. The people are generally, 30, 50 feet from the water. That's way too far. Okay, they're not, if you're, right at the water's edge where the waves are hitting your feet, the jerk might try to take you out. But if you're sitting even 15 feet away from the water, they don't start up that far from water. They don't like it. They'll defend themselves, but that's it. So people freak out, and what you do is you get the heck out of there, and you call the cops, and they'll take care of calling the trappers. In the meantime, the cops will keep an eye on the thing to make sure it doesn't find a child or a baby walking around or something like that doesn't know what they're doing. And you can kill them with a pistol pretty easily. It's not that hard to do. Their armor would work if, like, a dog was trying to bite them, but not if you shoot them with a 9mm or something like that. Go right through them. So French Foreign Legion actually take their guys and they teach them to sit on the alligator and how to hold his mouth and tie rope on it. I mean, that's a pretty frightening thing to do, but the French Foreign Legion trains them that way. I think the French Foreign Legion are trained to be tough and hard, but I don't think France cares about them that much, and I don't think they give them that much good equipment. I could be wrong. I'm guessing, but anti-Trump groups are now urging for holiday boycotts of Amazon, Home Depot, Target over DEI backtrack. Well, I don't think people are going to Well, some people will, but I don't think that's. You know, there were people, I knew one of them, he was an antitrust lawyer, one of the few in the country, and in America, and he tried to get people to boycott Walmart when they started opening up. See, Walmart was the kiss of death. That was the Satan bots. This guy wasn't a believer. That was the Satan bots putting the little guy out of business to force the little people to work for them. They didn't want to see little people have their own independent business. They're so jealous and insecure and scared and stupid. Oh, and they stupid. So what they did is they opened up Walmart, okay? And Walmart has so many different things at such low prices. When they opened up, who would they put out of business? Well, the photo developing store, he'd go. The guy selling shoes would frequently fold. Not all the time, but low end shoes, uh, Tom McCann, and they went, you know, Miles shoes, and they got rid of them. Okay, so they get rid of them there. Hardware stores gone, lawn and stores, gardening lawns gone. Cheap. And they were just wiping stores out like crazy. Okay. And people didn't have the brains to say, "Oh, it's so cheap, Walmart." They didn't have the brains to understand that the independent store owner that had a hardware store was your friend. You could talk to him, and he knew the products, and he didn't bring garbage into his store. There's nobody to really talk to at Walmart that knows what they're talking about, pretty much. Usually there's nobody, and they don't care about you. The little supermarkets went. Because in rural, less urban areas, people could drive to a big Walmart, park their car in their generous parking lot, get a cart, and go in and buy their food. Now, I did this in Florida, and I was buying my food at a supermarket called Publix, which is a higher end supermarket than Walmart. It's not where the rich and famous are going to go. It's where the middle class are going to go. It's better than Winn-Dixie. It's better than Walmart. And it's on the order of Safeway, but a small notch better than Safeway. One notch over Safeway, you could say. But Safeway is pretty good. It's close to Safeway, and I shopped at Publix, and then I shifted over to Walmart, okay? And I was saving, like every time I went, I'd save about $150. I didn't go every day. I would load up, And there were brands in Walmart that you didn't see in the other supermarkets, and they weren't that bad. So it was a serious savings. And then they sold all kinds of other stuff. They had computer games, computers, phones. It was like one-stop shopping. They got into optical. They got into doctors, gardening, tires, batteries for cars, all kinds of clothing and jewelry. I don't know if they put dentistry in. I don't think the dentist needed them. They would, but the dentist didn't need that garbage. See, the problem when working with them is you work for them. They own the shop. Like the optometrist, he works there. It's their shop. Okay? the customers are really their customers, but not exactly. The optometrist, I believe, has a right to keep records on his customers. So if they fire the optometrist, which they could do at any point in time, I think the contract is that the customers belong to Walmart, not the guy, and he can't take them with him. I mean, from what I know, he can't send all his customers a letter and say, I've relocated out of Walmart and open up an office a quarter mile away and say, I'm now here, and give them a map and all that, and send them a mailing and then give them offers. I don't know, maybe he can do it, I don't know. And the dentist would never put up with that, because the dentist wants, his customers, his patients. Now, the dentists make a point of closing dental schools to make sure they make a good living, okay? Not a good living. I was shocked. I have a friend, his brother is a dentist, and he retired, and the guy had almost $15 million in the bank. Now, this guy, I think, was afraid to spend his money. That's what you get. They just sit there and look at it. I understand the guy bought an apartment for about $250,000, a townhouse. And, that's normally not somebody retiring with 15 or 14 million, whatever the guy had, would probably go out and buy a house for 900,000. But this character didn't, because he's gonna, he just wants to have his money. He looks at his money and he feels comfortable. That's how these people are. What the heck is this? I'm gonna read this for a second. Give me a second here. It's some kind of ad. If I don't see my name in there, I don't really take it seriously. All right, this Hebrews here took a minute to figure out what was going on. Yeah, they can make a lot of money. So, the Walmarts were killing people. They were putting a little businessman out of business, and the people just ate it right up. The Satan bots are dumb, real dumb, but the people sometimes are a lot dumber. The United States military has killed 2 more drug boats. 6 people, I believe, 3 on each boat. 2 boats went. The Defense Secretary Hegseth, which I believe is now called the War Department, the total death toll for the drug boat, now it's up to 76 people. This took place on Sunday in international waters in the Eastern Pacific, targeting 2 boats that were carrying narcotics with 3 male narco terrorists on board each. Narco terrorists are calling them, okay. See, just to make it clear, okay, 80% of the people in United States prisons are in jail for uh, crimes where there's no real victim, okay? They're violating statutes, laws. They're not hurting people. In other words, 80% of the time they haven't robbed somebody, done physical harm to somebody. Rape is physical harm. Assault. Robbing at the point of a gun is physical harm, armed robbery. It's not literally, but it's grouped like that in terms of their laws, right? So 20% of the people are doing, home invasions, kidnappings, murders, assaults, muggings, stuff like that, violent crime, right? The others are, you know, doing technical, violations. And is there really a victim? A lot of times there is, you know, there is. Okay, so, uh, if a tremendous amount of these crimes are drug related, okay, if they just legalize drugs, do you understand how much better it would be? First of all, understand, ever since drugs became a problem in the 1960s, so let's say you're talking 60 years now, 60 years, people in America that wanted to have access to drugs had access to the drugs. So the drug war is bogus. Obviously, the government is corrupt. Okay? Obviously. Or it wouldn't go on. Now, if you legalize the drugs, the people get drugs all the time. So the government is spending billions on drugs. If it was legalized, would these drug cartels be put out of business? They'd have to go get a job. Would you like fries with that, sir? A guy that's a soldier in the cartels running around making $500,000 a year is going to be, well, in some of these lousy countries, he's maybe making 100,000 or something. They'd be, or less, they'd be going around and saying, would you like fries with that, sir? And you could get more rehab because you put a tax on it for rehab. So every time they buy a bottle of cocaine or something else, $1 or something goes towards rehab. Should they do every type of drug? Well, that's the only way you're going to make it legal is to do that. If people, look, the liquor industry is huge. And they got this under control because the only abusive drug you can get is alcohol. I would speculate, I don't know, I'm going to guess that chewing coca leaf or chewing opium, the tarry stuff that you get from the opium poppy, probably is less harmful for you than Johnny Walker that's made through all kinds of pipes with chemicals and processes and who knows what kind of junk they put in there that's carcinogenic and rotten for your body, Where the other stuff, you could easily have organic coca leaf and organic opium, without all these processes. People could just take opium and chew it. Or they could take opium and put it in make a concoction of tea out of it or something like that. You would end a tremendous amount of prostitution. Tremendous. And it would still be demented women that are going to do it anyway. But a lot of them are driven to it to feed their drug habit. No drug habit, they don't like it. They don't want to do it. And are you going to start seeing people addicted? Guys, you got to remember, before 1916 or 1918, there were drugs all over the United States and Europe and every place else. You can go to YouTube, you can go to Google and look at the bottles. They had opium. They had cocaine. They didn't have speed. They had marijuana. They had opium. They called it cannabis sativa. They had ether. They had chloroform. They had all these things. Did people get addicted? Absolutely. But how many people are addicted now anyway? How many people are alcoholic addicted? How many people are cigarette addicted? Cigarettes don't really have tobacco that much in it. It's full of chemicals. 40 or 50 chemicals. I understand in World War II, the cigarettes were pretty much tobacco, but they still got to have chemicals. For instance, when you make a fuse for a firecracker, let's say, you're going to use potassium nitrate because it promotes burning. So you light the fuse in it and it burns. It's paper or something and it burns. Okay. So they put the point is you could make it healthier. Anyway, look, you'd clean up a lot of the problem. There are always going to be people that are going to get addicted, if it's illegal or legal. But what you would do is if Trump wanted to wipe out the cartels, you legalize all the drugs, okay? And the cartels would hit a brick wall, immediately fall down dead. It'd be over for them. They'd retire. What do you think? The guys that got billions, they would just forget it. They'd go retire. Okay? Law enforcement would go back to the way it was in the 50s. So they were chasing violent people and, thieves and things like that. They weren't spending such time and energy on drugs. It's so bad, Trump's putting the military after the drugs. Okay, it's all over for the cartels. That's it. And the price of the drugs would never cause people to want to commit crimes to get them. I had a friend that was a druggist at one time, and he told me a big bottle of cocaine, like this big, was $16 in the 70s. That's what the drugstore would pay for it. I don't know, you probably had a street value of, $2,000-$3,000 back then. This is, you're talking, 50 years ago or something. So people would easily be able to afford this stuff for the price of what they're buying in Johnny Walker or Jim Beam or that kind of junk. They could afford the drugs, and they could do what they want. The other thing is the drugs were convenient for people. For instance, if you had a flu and a cough and you're not sleeping, they had drugs that you would go to sleep on. I read the ingredients in the bottles. They put chloroform in there, marijuana in there, some cherry herbs. They put a few herbs in there that were healing, and they put opiates in there. So, you know, codeine as well. So if you wanted to go to sleep, you could get a real, a drug like a heroin or something like that, and take it, let's say, at 10 o'clock at night, and you're going to wake up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. You're not going to get up during the night 3 times to cough and take that weak codeine medicine they're going to give you. Oh, you'll be spacey the next day. So what? You're going to heal because you're sleeping good. That helps you heal. People don't realize that. The doctors under-medicate. Okay? People took cocaine for menstrual cramps. They mixed it with wine and probably other alcohol so they would keep their stomach settled and they wouldn't fall asleep. There was a lot of things that went on. They would take the cocaine with the pain meds, with the opiate, heroin's an opiate, so they wouldn't fall asleep, so they could be functional. And you're going to assume all these people are going to become addicted. Well, they created artificial drugs like oxycodone that's more addicting than the natural drugs and more harmful. The real organic natural drugs are not going to harm you like the synthetics. Okay, so if you just went to marijuana, cocaine, and opium, I don't know what else, hashish maybe would be considered natural. I have to check, I don't remember. You'd be okay, but then the jerks would still run around with ecstasy and speed and all of that stuff. But if you sold these things legally, the people wouldn't buy those illegal drugs because they'd be too expensive. They'd go out of business. You just manage without it, Now, there is pharmaceutical speed they could, offer to, but that's what they should do. They should just end all of this. The whole thing started as a scam by the American Medical Association trying to build work up for the doctors. And they said, well, no, we got to protect the people. They got to go to the doctor and get a prescription for these narcotics medicines. They lobbied Congress. Congress is getting money for it, so they passed the law. And it sells. It sounds like it's a real thing. And then people had to go to the doctor and pay $3 or $5 for a visit, and he'd give them the prescriptions. He didn't give it to anybody. If he didn't give them the prescriptions, they wouldn't pay him. They'd walk out. I came here for prescriptions. You're not giving me a prescription, I'm not paying you. You're not performing. Call the police if you want. I'll tell them the same thing, and walk out. That's what went on. It's funny. You go to an optometrist, the guy that sells the glasses, and he does your eye exam, right? And, he can't get your prescription right, or let's say he's going to fit you with contact lenses and they're not comfortable. You don't wear them, and you walk out. You tell the guy, I'm not paying you. It didn't work. You can't fit me with contacts. But the same person will go to the doctor, and the doctor, they'll ask him what's wrong with him with this pain. The doctor will say, I don't know, and they'll pay the doctor. It's crazy. People don't make sense. Okay, so if there was no corruption and they were not making money off of these drugs, they would make them legal, wouldn't they? That's your answer. Why go after the cartels? Because they only go after certain cartels, not all of them. And why only certain ones? Because the ones that they don't go after are the ones that are cutting them in on the action. Did you ever think of that? LaGuardia Airport came to a complete stop again for the second time. Good old air traffic controllers aren't making enough money. They need more money, right? What do they want to make? 400,000 a year or something? I don't know. Breaking. Chicago. Oh, this is choice. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson just asked the United Nations to intervene and stop ICE. A U.S. mayor begging foreign bureaucrats to block federal immigration enforcement in America. This is your Democrats. What this is in the Bible is ruler against ruler. I'll get the scripture for you. For the daughter of Babylon. And I'll pull it up. Give me a minute. Okay, this is pertaining to America, daughter of Babylon. Jeremiah 51:46. And lest your heart faint and you fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land, a rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that in another year shall come a rumor and violence in the land. Ruler against ruler. Violence in the land, ruler against ruler. So how is it working in America with ruler against ruler? Well, judge just told Trump he has to fully fund the EBT cards. Judges tell Trump he can't put the National Guard in Portland. Yeah, this sort of thing, right? Mayors telling the police department, don't cooperate with the federal authorities. This mayor asking for help from the foreign powers. This is ruler against ruler. Mayors going against the president. Governors going against the president, right? Judges going against the president. A judge is a ruler. A mayor is a ruler, he rules the city. A governor is a ruler, he rules the state. You see? You have it. It doesn't say, ruler taking the sword to each ruler, but it does after that say violence in the land. Now, you have violence in the land in America, but I don't think you're at the peak of it or the culmination or the fullness of it yet, sadly, but that's what I think. Okay. So that's one of the signs. This is the theater of the absurd, the mayor actually doing this. I don't think anybody's going to take this mayor seriously. Wait, if he does, imagine what the mayor of New York will do. He'll go to the Muslim nations and ask them to help. Now, Congress against the president is also ruler against ruler, isn't it? And what did Yeshua say? A house divided unto itself shall not stand. There you have it. That's why Satan keeps his churches divided on doctrines. Arctic air hits much of the U.S., bringing snow to some areas and very chilly temperatures to Florida. Okay. Now, this is interesting. In Israel, the death penalty law passed, the reading in the Knesset, which is our one-house Congress, it passed. Now, you got to understand, in Israel, the law has to go through what they call 3 readings. It passed the first. It has to go through 2 more. They call it a reading because people can still modify it. After it goes through the 3rd reading, it's done. It's a law. Okay? It appears they intend to use this law against convicted prisoners in the jail for terrorism. There's a certain degree of heinous terrorists that they didn't return to Hamas. They wouldn't. The October 7th characters and others. Now, this is going to scare the daylights over those 200 goofs in the tunnel in Gaza, because a lot of them are October 7th crooks. Murderers, rapists, and, burn people alive and all that. And they're going to, be pretty darn nervous if they go out of the tunnel. They can engage the Israeli soldiers in combat and get slaughtered, probably without killing or wounding anybody. Or they could stay in the tunnels and they're going to die, I think, of the lack of water and food, and Netanyahu's not agreeing to give them safe passage. So are they going to pass this death penalty? I don't know. It looks like it. Ben Gvir came around the Knesset when it passed, handing out pastry. If they dump Netanyahu, which I wish they would already, and they get another one in, Ben Gvir and Smotrich are going to bear down on the guy to take surplus weapons from the Israeli military that's still, stored in armories, and give hundreds of thousands of them to the Israelis. You see, October 7th happened because Netanyahu's gun control laws. Everybody down there should have had a gun in their house. It never would have happened. But that moron gets away with more than he should. He's scared of being overthrown. He's scared that people are going to find out some of the things he did to them. That's why he doesn't want them to have guns. But a certain amount of people do have weapons here. It helps. But he fights tooth and nail to stop people from getting the weapons. Oh, is he bad about that? It's a disgusting, poor excuse for a human being, in my opinion. It's just an abomination. He's literally an abomination, literally. So, if they really get rid of Netanyahu, and Ben Gvir is the one that pushed this death penalty thing, if he can push that through, he's going to lighten up on the gun permits. What they should do with the gun permits is basically you go to the gun store, you show them your national identity card, and um, they verify it, and then they check to see if you have a criminal record, and that's it. Or any other thing marked against you that would stop you from, getting a gun like that. But that's all they would do. And you would have the gun like in America, it'd be something quick. But maybe it would start out that you'd have to go get the report from the police and then give it to the gun store. And the gun store used to give you a course about the gun that took a few hours. So when you bought a gun, you got the course. It was pretty easy, nothing great, you know. And they might start it up again, but not just with pistols. You need to start it up again with assault rifles, and you need to be able to get shotguns too. Okay? Israel is a hostile country. Netanyahu wants us to make believe it's not. That piece of garbage. All right. You know what they do when you buy a pistol here? You don't get a CCW permit. They don't exist in Israel. You get the permission to buy and own the gun. If you have the gun, you can wear the gun exposed if you want, and you can wear it concealed. They don't care. Okay, a lot of countries operate like that. It's a pretty good way to go. Now, Ben Gavir and Smotrich may pass a bill that you just, if you've got a citizenship or a permanent residency, you just go buy a gun. There's no anything check. They could do that too. Forget about it. Just go buy a gun. It's like buying a shoes or a hat. They've got the people all scared about that, when you have communities like Florida or Texas where people got guns, how many times do you ever hear about a home invasion? It's pretty rare. It happens in these cities where they control the guns, and if the Muslims want to come into our country and swarm the houses, there's a thing you can buy called a duck's beak. Okay, you put it on a shotgun, and it looks like the beak of a duck. It's a choke you put on the shotgun, and it has a flattened thing like that, broad and flat. And you don't shoot double-aught buck with that. You could. What you're shooting at is number 4 buck. It's still a good-sized pellet. It's not birdshot. Number 4 buck, not number 4 birdshot. And it has about 42 pellets in the 2 3/4 inch 12 gauge. And if you're getting hit with multiple opponents, you aim low for the leg going from the knee to the foot. Okay? How many people put body armor over there? I mean, that's pretty rare. That's the kind of armor somebody that's in bomb disposal might have, It's really rare to ever see soldiers with that, okay? So you shoot down low, but this spreads your shot out like this. And you could hit 3, maybe 4, depending on distance, 3 to 5 people with one pull of the trigger. And when you get hit in the shin bone area, it's very painful. You don't have any muscle or fat to stop the bullet from hitting the bone. And when that bullet hits the bone, it's super painful. The guy's going to go down and scream. And you get yourself a nice 12 gauge like a Benelli with 8 shots. And you could shoot those so fast that before the first empty casing hits the ground, all 8 are fired. And I had one once. It's an excellent gun, not cheap, but excellent. Excellent. So if you're getting a mob coming at your house, you just take the shotgun and you boom, 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 boom. You go across, maybe you'd have to do 3 or 4 shots. There'd be so many laying on the ground. The rest of them would run away. Minimal training to learn how to do that. And that's it. They're gone. They're not coming. What do you do with the guys that are laying there on the ground? Well, then you pick up your pistol and you murder them. What are you going to do? Walk over and pick them up and put a tourniquet on them and clean the wound? What do you think you do? It's still dangerous. They're alive. They're still dangerous. They might have weapons. You murder them. Shoot them at a distance while they're on the ground. That's all you do. Remember that movie where what's the jerk's name? He did. Oh, anyway, I forget his movie. But you got to understand it. They'll kill you even when they're wounded. The others will just abandon them. They're not going to sit there and carry them away. They'll just run away. Now, should they issue full automatic weapons? I don't know. That's a little bit much. You're going to start having people that aren't trained well enough, and they're going to fire them in crowds and cities, and it's going to be dangerous. So. What about using a shotgun in a city? I don't think anybody's going to want to drag a shotgun around in the city. What about in the car? Shotguns aren't your ideal weapon to shoot at cars with. Assault weapon is. So what's the shotgun good for? Your home. People coming in the house. If they actually do get in the house and you use that number 4 buck, you're not hitting them with 2 or 3 or 4 pellets. You're going to hit them in the house probably with 25. They're not going to be happy. They're going to be bleeding like crazy, in pain. They're going to, it's very dangerous for them. The other thing is it won't penetrate the walls of the house very well. So you don't have to worry about hitting somebody in the room. Now, with the duck's beak, I wouldn't want to use that in the house because you're going to wreck your furniture and stuff like that. You don't need a choke. You're at short distance. Just use it. You could put other kinds of chokes on a 12 gauge, and you could shoot people effectively and hit them at 100 yards. 100 yards with a shotgun. And I'm talking, you'll have a pattern like that. So you're going to get you're going to shoot your double up buck. If you shoot the 9 shot, the 2 3/4, you're probably going to hit them with 3 or 4 pellets at 100 yards. Each pellet's like a 32 caliber pistol bullet. You're going to knock them out pretty bad. It'd be like walking over with a 32 and going boom, boom, boom. Bad news. It's worse when all the bullets hit at the same time. So we're going to have probably more readings of this law, and if it keeps passing, they're going to take some of the people already in prison, and I imagine it'll take a judge's decision, and they're going to destine them for execution, and then they'll execute them. Now, that will certainly cause Hamas to rise up. I'd give that, a 99.9% chance that Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah, they'll all be screaming bloody murder. Iran, everybody will go nuts. See, they tell the terrorists, the Israelis catch you. If they kill you, you'll be a martyr, so what? If they catch you, they'll put you in jail and you'll have to stay there till we get you out on a prisoner exchange from hostages. And then you'll be back with us, killing Jews again. See, that's Netanyahu, the weak piece of garbage, allowing that, the curse of Israel. So he allowed that, and he was not in favor of the death penalty. So they realize now when they kill somebody, what happens is they're going to get executed, or they hurt people in Israel, they're going to get executed. The other thing it does is it takes the incentive away from Hamas of having hostages and Hezbollah and others, because what are they going to do with the hostages? They're not going to be able to trade for the prisoners. There are no prisoners, so what are they going to do? Tell us stop the war, or we're going to kill these 6 people or something? All right. When the Arab regimes speak of Israel having peace and Abrahamic accords, what they mean is a stupid Israel that sits there and keeps getting attacked and does nothing about it. An Israel that wants to wipe out their enemies, they don't have much interest in an Abrahamic accord with them. Now, you stupid Jews just sit there and let them shoot missiles at you, and eventually all you Jews will leave Israel, or you'll be dead. And that's the kind of Israel they want. Now remember, prophetically, there's a scripture, all her lovers have left her. Okay? Jeremiah 30:14. That's Jeremiah 30 is for today. That's Jacob's trouble, which is Zechariah 12, which is in place to some extent now, not in the fullness, but to some extent. It could go into the fullness any day. All thy lovers have forgotten thee, they seek thee not. For I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one. So that's another scripture. The only one that hasn't left is Trump. Canada left, Mexico, I mean, they're all leaving. Trump is the only one trying to shore it up, and I don't think he's a good friend either. He's just a deceiver. He's deceptive. A little while ago, gold was back up there again, $44,136 for gold. Let's give gold a hand. Go gold, go gold. Now, let's talk about silver. A few hours ago, silver was $50.88, and the 24-hour high was $51.11. Let's give silver a hand. And the 24-hour high for gold was $41.54. So gold is climbing. And we haven't even seen a war break out yet. Wait. The Syrian president who was there visiting Trump saying there's not going to be any talks about fully normalizing relationships with Israel. Syria has borders with Israel, and Israel has been occupying the Golan Heights since 1967. We are not going to enter direct negotiations at the moment. Maybe the American administration with President Trump will help us reach such negotiations. So he wants Israel to go to some kind of Abrahamic accords with him, but he wants land given back. Well, see, what's going on is he could break the Abrahamic Accord whenever he wants. There's another scripture that's pretty interesting. Lamentations 1, verse 2. She weepeth sore in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers, she has none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They are become her enemies. Okay, now we haven't seen this because of Trump, but Trump's the DOB and that's going down. So when he goes down, then basically, you know, we've seen it. I mean, you would say. So we're not there yet exactly, but we're getting there. And I don't really know if we could declare Trump a friend. I think we'd have to, because he's doing certain things, giving us weapons and negotiating for us and vetoing at the UN and stuff like that. So I think you'd have to some extent, say that. Let me see what I got in the live stream here. I didn't put my post up. Let me do that. This will just take a few seconds. Well, I'm not seeing questions. Will you get the Civil War? I don't think you have to. No, ruler against ruler, I think we're seeing already. It doesn't specify the sword or anything, so I'm not so sure you need to, no. No, I don't think so. Okay, a prayer request for MJ, Mike Juliet. MJ, Mike Juliet, prayer request for healing. For MJ, healing. Send Greta to the Philippines. Maybe send Greta to Venezuela. I don't know. Greta's kind of nuts. All right, let's do some Bible work now. Um, all right, we'll go into 1 Kings 17. First Kings. Okay, we're going to study Elijah. He's one of the two witnesses. He's the one training the Levites in Malachi 3 to get the offerings acceptable unto the Lord. Well, of course, the church thinks that the law is done away with, so why would they believe that? You know. So we'll study Elijah. We'll learn his traits. Now Elijah is going to be the same way. John the Baptist had the spirit of Elijah. When Elijah is Elijah when he was here a long time ago, and when he's back here again, it's Elijah. It's not someone else. Enoch is the other witness, and Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, hang on a second. Okay. Gilead, rocky as uh, unto Ahab as Jehovah Elohim of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word. So he said, the rain's only going to come according to my word. Now it says that Enoch and Elijah, the two witnesses, will have the power to stop the rain. Okay. It can't be Moses because the scripture says it's elected unto man to die only once. Moses died. King David died. It can't be them. Okay. And the word of Jehovah came unto him, saying, get thee hence, and turn thee eastward, and hide thyself by the brook Cherit. Get thee hence, turn thee eastward, and hide thyself by the brook Cherith that is before Jordan, before the country. So it's kind of in this area where I am now. And it shall away, even 10 miles. And it shall be that thou shalt, maybe 15 miles, I don't know, maybe 2 miles. And it shall be that thou shalt drink of the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to feed thee there. Now, the rabbis in their Talmud, extra biblical book that I don't pay any attention to and suggest you do the same, it says that the ravens were robbing the food off the king's table or something and bringing it to Elijah, but it does not say that. Okay. So he went, and so he had to stay by the brook, or he wouldn't have his food because the ravens were just bringing it to that area. Verse 4, and it shall be that thou shalt drink of the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to feed thee there. So he has to be there to get fed. So he went and did according unto the word of Jehovah, for he went and dwelt by the brook Cherit, that that is before Jordan, and the ravens brought him bread and flesh. So they were bringing him meat. Let's check the word for flesh. Yeah, they were bringing him meat, as we would use the word meat, to the morning. They brought him and flesh in the morning, and bread and flesh in the evening, and he drank of the brook. So he was eating twice a day. And it came to pass after a while that the brook dried, because there had been no rain in the land. So we don't know how long he was there for. Arise, get thee to Zarephath, which belongeth to Zidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee. So he gets a widow woman, he commands her to take care of him. So he arose and went to Zareth. There's no th sound in Hebrew, so it'd be a t sound. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the widow woman was there gathering sticks, and he called to her and said, fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel that I may drink. Now, she must have known that he was the one that she was commanded to take care of when he appeared. Okay, the Spirit must have quickened it to her or something. All right, let's keep reading. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thy hand. Now, I believe that Elijah was a Kohanim because he did the sacrifices of the animals, as we'll read today. So I think he was a Kohanim because the Lord accepted the sacrifices. So as a Kohanim, he would also be. Now, this is hard for a lot of you to understand. The churches don't understand it, of course. That he would tell her, you feed me first, and then the Lord will take care of you. And that's what he was doing. Okay? And as she was going, well, he called her out. And then the next verse, now I'm in verse 12. And she said, as the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel and a little oil in a cruse, some sort of bottle-ish container for the oil. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks that I may go in and dress it for me and my son. Well, the sticks, I guess, was going to be for cooking, I imagine, or mixing, I don't know, probably cooking. And that we may eat and die. See, she thought that was the food was over, the water was coming to an end, and, the food was over because he stopped the rain. Now, he did this because the people were acting very wickedly with Jezebel and all that. Okay. And Elijah, or Eliyahu, said unto her, fear not, go and do as thou hast said, but make me thereof a little cake, bake it and put it together as, something like that, and bring it unto me, and after maketh for thee and for and after make for thee and for thy son. So he was saying, first you do it for me. For thus saith Jehovah Elohim of Israel, it be Jehovah Elohim Yisrael, the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail, until the day that the Lord sendeth rain upon the earth. Now, when he sent rain upon the earth, there would still be grain in the barrel, and there would still be oil in the bottle, but it wouldn't be getting replenished all the time. So she would have a supply until the crops came back up and all that, okay? And now we're in verse 15. And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah, and she and he and her house did eat many days. She listened. And the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of Jehovah, which he spake by Elijah, because Elijah was a prophet. And when he's always going to be a prophet. And it came to pass after those things that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick, and his sickness was so sore that there was no breath left in him. I don't know what he was sick of. I don't know. And it could have been pneumonia. I don't know. I don't know. And she said unto Elijah, what have I to do with thee, O thou man of Elohim, of God? Art thou come unto me to call my sin to remembrance and slay my son? So she was interpreting it as a punishment, and the Lord wasn't doing that. Not that we're ever told, so I don't think so. And he said unto her, give me thy son. And he took him out of her bosom. She was holding him. So I don't think he was that old. Okay. I don't know. I don't have an exact year for you, but he probably wasn't 11 or anything like that. He was, young. And he carried him up into a loft. Now that's where he was living, in the loft over the house, where he abode. Well, that's saying that's where he lived. And laid him upon his own bed. And he cried unto the Lord, and saith, O Lord, my God, hast thou also brought evil upon the widow with whom I sojourned by slaying her son? He asked the Lord. He didn't say the Lord did it. He asked. Big difference. And he stretched himself upon the child 3 times and cried unto the Lord, Jehovah, and said, O Jehovah Elohim, I pray thee, let this child's soul come back. again come back into his body. And the Lord heard and the Lord heard the voice of Elijah, and the soul of the child came unto him again, and he revived. And Elijah took the child and brought him down out of the chamber into the house. So he took him down the steps, into the house, and delivered him unto his mother. And Elijah said, See, thy son liveth. Now, why didn't Elijah pray for the child? I don't know. It probably never occurred to him. Maybe this was a way the Lord was going to build the faith up of the woman. She might have been slipping in faith and wanted to throw Elijah out of the house and get back to laying down and dying with her son or something. I don't know. And the woman said, Elijah, now by this I know that thou art a man of God, and that the word of Jehovah is in thy mouth is truth. So she understood who he was. Now we're in verse 18, verse 1. And it came to pass after many days that the word of Jehovah came to Elijah in the third year, saying, Go show that's the third year of the drought, the lack of rain. Go show thyself unto Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. Now, he's saying that. I don't think Elijah was saying to call down the earth, but to call down the rain. But anyway, and Elijah went to show himself unto Ahab, and there was a sore famine in Samaria, that's the West Bank. And Ahab called Obadiah, which was the governor of his house. Now Obadiah feareth the Lord Jehovah greatly. If you don't fear the Lord greatly, you're not really in the faith very much, For it was so when Jezebel cut off the prophets of Jehovah, she was killing the prophets, that Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50 in a cave. So there was 2 caves, 50 each cave, right? Okay. And fed them with bread and water. And Ahab said unto Obadiah, Go into the land unto all fountains of water and unto all brooks. Peradventure we may And Ahab said unto Obadiah, Go into the land, unto all fountains of water, and unto all brooks, peradventure we may find grass to save the horses and mules alive, that we lose not all these beasts. So they divided the land between them to pass, stinking thing, uh, to pass throughout it. Ahab went one. I was saying stinking thing to the device here. So Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another way by himself. And as Obadiah was in the way, behold, Elijah met him, and he knew him, and fell on his face, and said, Art thou that my Lord? Are you Elijah? He was basically saying in choppy English here. And he answered him, I go tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here. And he said, What have I sinned that thou wouldst deliver thy servant into the hand of Ahab to slay me? As the Lord thy God liveth, there is no nation, no heathen or kingdom whither my Lord hath not sent to seek thee. And when they said, He is not there, he took an oath of the kingdom and nation that Goyim, that they found him, they found thee not. And now I'm in verse 11. And now thou sayest, Go tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here. And it shall come to pass, soon as I am gone from thee, that the Spirit of the Lord shall carry thee whither I know not. And so when I come and tell Ahab, and he cannot find thee, he shall slay me, but I thy servant fear the Lord from my youth. So he's saying he fears God more, Was it not told my Lord what I did when Jezebel slew the prophets of Jehovah? How I hid 100 of them. Was it not told my Lord, what I did when I slew the prophets, when Jezebel slew the prophets of the Lord, that he hid them by hundreds in the cave. So if Jezebel knew about that, she'd be gunning for him too. And he fed them with bread and water. And now thou, you see, there was a school of prophets then, and they had a lot of prophets. I don't think we'll ever see that reproduce. I don't think so. But in a different way, because you have the Holy Spirit, and you can prophesy that way, but that doesn't give you the office of a prophet. But you will prophesy. Okay. And now thou sayest, go tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here, and he shall slay me. And Elijah said, as the Lord of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, I will surely show myself unto him today. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. And it came to pass, when Ahab saw Elijah, that Ahab said unto him, art thou he that troubleth Israel? See, that's how they view Elijah. You're making trouble for Israel, you're making trouble for the world. What are you doing? No, jerks, he's establishing God's kingdom, you idiots. And he answered, I have not troubled Israel, but thou and thy father's house, in that you have forsaken the commandments of Jehovah, and thou hast followed Baalim. Very similar today. They confuse them and give them the Torah, which has different commandments and different, contradicts the real Torah, the real law, and they give them that instead. So it's more clever, and in the sense that it's more clever, I would say it makes it more evil, and that's not such great English. You don't really say more evil, do we? You say evil of a greater nature, maybe? I don't know, but you wouldn't really say more evil. That's not such good English, is it? No. Okay, moving along. Who cares about the English anyway? We'll all be speaking Hebrew soon enough. So Ahab sent unto all the children of Israel and gathered the prophets together unto Mount Carmel. That's like near Haifa, sort of, not that close, but close enough. And Elijah came unto all the people and said, how long halt you between two opinions? The Lord be God, follow him, but if Baal, then follow him. And the people answered them not a word. Then said Elijah unto the people, even I only remain a prophet of Jehovah, but Baal's prophets are 450 men. He doesn't really have prophets. The demonic people don't have prophets. It's bogus, but they consider them prophets. Look, the Mormons have 12 apostles, got it? The Catholics have the God's representative on earth, the Pope, okay. Let them therefore, it says call no man father. Well, the Pope in the other languages is Papa. They're basically calling him father. Duh, not good. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose 1 bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire under, and I will dress the other bullock. So he's telling them, you pick your bullock and lay it on wood and put no fire under it. Okay, so they were getting the competition ready, the challenge here. And call ye upon the name of your gods. That's a joke. And I will call on the name of Jehovah. And that's why they try to blot his name out, and they start calling him Yahweh and Jehovah and garbage like that, And I will call on the name of Jehovah, and Elohim that answereth by fire, let him be God. And he's not saying let him be God as a result of that action. He says that's the one that's God. Translation's off there. And all the people answered and said, it is well spoken. And Elijah said unto the prophets of Baal, choose you 1 bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for you are many, and call on the name of your gods, but put no fire under it. So no man is going to light these fires for Elijah and for the witches of that are worshiping the Baalim, Jezebel's witches or whatever. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it and called on the name of Baal from morning even until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered, and they leaped upon the altar which was made. They made the altar, the wood and all that. And it came to pass at noon, so they're working on it in the morning, that Elijah mocked them and said, cry aloud, for he is a God, for he is a God, either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is on a journey, or perhaps peradventure he sleepeth and must be awakened. Well, God doesn't slumber or sleep, but he's mocking. What Elijah is doing is he's mocking Satan and the demons, like we do. How about that? Satan's a schmuck, he's an idiot, the demons, okay. That's what he's doing. But in this case, he's also mocking his servants. We do that too. Okay, we're in verse 28 of 1 Kings 18. And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lancets. A lancet is a poker, and you get a little hole, like if a thorn pierced you or something like that, a little poker they use, till the blood gushed out upon them. That they would do that as a way to get the demons to do something for them. The demons love blood, so they get the people to draw their own blood. They just get off on it. Not that they drink it; they just enjoy tormenting humans, and at the same time telling them that they're going to be gods and stuff, which is a joke. So like I tell you, the people that serve the unclean spirits are dumber than the dumbest believer. I don't, forgive me for using that phrase, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach, but, I'm just putting it that way because they don't know what's going on. The heads of state and the billionaires, they don't know what's going on. They're idiots. As evidenced by what they consider important and what they do with their lives. And it came to pass when midday was past and they prophesied until the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. Because God is superior to the demons and stuff. Now, mind you, this is the time of the evening sacrifice. Elijah, I believe, is a Kohanim, so he's working this out. You understand? Okay. And Elijah said unto all the people, come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him. So he wasn't sitting there thinking, well, if I do this and it doesn't work, I'm going to look like a big schmark. No, he didn't do that. See, he had faith. So he said, okay, I know what's going to happen. Come, watch. And he repaired the altar of the Lord. So he was using an altar as it was broken down. So he's doing it at the correct time for the sacrifice offering, and he's using the altar. Got it? And but he didn't cleanse the altar for 8 days. He didn't need to. And Elijah took 12 stones according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob. The sons of Jacob were the ones that had the names that the tribes are named after them, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And there's no tribe called Israel, by the way. Okay. The nation consists of 12 tribes. It's called Israel. And with the stone, he built an altar. It's stones plural. He built an altar in the name of Jehovah. So he rebuilt the altar, you might say, or a new altar. So I guess that's why he didn't have to cleanse it. Brought the 12 rocks in and stuff. Okay. And he made a trench about the altar, dug a ditch around the altar, as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order and cut the bullock in pieces and laid him on the wood and said, fill 4 barrels with water and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood. And he said, do it the second time. And they did it the second time. And he said, do it the third time. And they did it the third time. So he's really, in the eyes of the people, making this test look very, very hard for the Lord. Nothing's hard for the Lord, but to them it looked that way, I suppose. And the water ran round about the altar, and he filled the trench also with water. And it came to at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord God of Abraham, it says, Yehovah Elohim, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yisrael, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I, thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. So the Lord told him to do these things. Hear me, O Jehovah. Hear me, that this people may know that thou art Jehovah, Elohim, Jehovah God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. So he's turning the heart back. This is a very big deal. That's what he's going to do again. He's going to turn the heart of the fathers to the children and the children to the fathers. That's what he does. He works in the true gospel. Then the fire of Jehovah fell from above and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stones and the dust, and licked it up, took it up, right? And licked up, took up the water, I guess, that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and they said, Jehovah, he is Elohim, he is God. Jehovah, Jehovah, he is Elohim. See, it did a lot of good. It was a good thing. And Elijah said unto them, take the prophets of Baal, let not one of them escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook of Kishon and slew them there. Well, the water would be convenient for this. Now, Elijah killed a lot of people in one day. Now, you might not be cognizant of how much work that is to take a sword and kill people, but you don't just touch them, you got to. And Elijah said unto Ahab, get thee up, eat and drink, for there is a sound of abundance of rain. So Ahab went up to eat and to drink, and Elijah went to the top of Carmel, and he cast himself down upon the earth and put his face between his legs, his knees, put his head between his knees, and said to his servant, go up now, look towards the sea. And he went up and looked and said, there is nothing. And he said, go again 7 times. And it came to pass at the 7th time that he said, behold, there ariseth a little cloud. There was a little cloud out of the sea like a man's hand. And he said, go, the Lord was trying to show that it was his hand, I believe. And he said, go up, say unto Ahab, prepare thy chariot and get thee down, that the rain stop thee not. And it came to pass in the meanwhile that the heaven was black with clouds, rain clouds, and wind. And there was a great rain, and Ahab rode and went to Jezreel. And the hand of Jehovah was on Elijah. See, the hand of the Lord, the hand over the ocean and the cloud. You getting it? Okay. The hand of the Lord was on Elijah, and he girded up his loins and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. You see, now the Spirit came upon him, but when we're with everlasting life, we'll be able to outrun chariots too, I believe. That's what I think. I'm pretty sure. And Ahab told Jezebel, I think so, all that Elijah had done, and that how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. And he was pleased to do that because these jackass prophets of hers were snares to Israel. And that's what Elijah is going to do. There's a lot of snares to Israel now, millions and millions, and him and Enoch are going to wipe them out. Then Jezebel went, she sent a messenger unto Elijah, saying, so let the God do to me, let the gods, her phony gods do to me and more, also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them. What's wrong? Okay, what's wrong? What? Okay, kill. Go kill. That stopped it. Make not thy life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. And when he saw, all right, no more, no more, stop. Hey. And when he saw that he arose, stop it. When he saw, you shut up. When he saw that he arose and went for his life and came to Beersheba, which belongeth to Judah, and left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a juniper tree, and he requested for himself that he might die, and said, it is enough now, O Jehovah, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. Amongst other things, he was sick of living there under Jezebel. That we don't have Jezebel, we got Netanyahu and the rabbis. And as he lay and slept under a juniper tree, behold, then an angel toucheth him and said unto him, arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baked on the coals, and a cruse of water, a jug or pitcher or container or something, of water at his head. And he did eat and drink and laid him down again. Now, if you saw an angel that prepared a meal, would you be able to go back to sleep? Would you be able to eat it? Would you not be excited? How many questions would you have for the angel? At least 50, right? I mean, you see what's going on? Okay. He didn't respond those ways. He was Elijah, okay? The Elijah. One of God's sons down to earth from heaven in a human form, who never died. He has to do it again and die, because it's elected unto man to die only once. He has to die. Enoch was on earth. He never died. He has to die also. So he's the second witness. And now I'm in verse 7. And the angel of the Lord came again the second time and touched him. He woke him up gently and said, Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee. And he arose and he did eat and drink, and he went in the strength of that meat. Now, it doesn't say that meat was a special, protein stimulant shake, none of that. As far as we know, it was carbs and the stuff, right? Okay. He went 40 days and 40 nights unto Horeb, the mount of God. Now, Yeshua went 40 days and 40 nights too, so we don't, you could say that was a special meat, or whatever you want to say. We don't have clarification here. And he came thither unto a cave, and lodged there. And behind the word of the Lord came to, and what? And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, and he said unto him, What doest thou here, Elijah? The word of the Lord came to him. He said, What are you doing here in the cave? Why are you in the cave? Are you bummed out? You're depressed? Don't you think I'm still with you? What's going on? And he said, I have been very jealous for Jehovah Elohim of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword, and I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And he said, Go forth and stand upon the mount before Jehovah. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountain. So he's standing out there outside the cave on the mountain, and this heavy wind comes by. Okay? That's the Lord coming, right? And broke in pieces the rocks. The wind was so strong it broke the rocks before Jehovah, but Jehovah was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. So then an earthquake comes, and I'm sure it wasn't a 3.2, it was a substantial earthquake. And the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. Where did this fire come from, And after the fire, a still small voice. And it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle and his garment, and went out and stood in the entering in of the cave. So maybe he was, I don't know, maybe I thought he left the cave, but he's now in the entrance to the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him and said, What doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for Jehovah Elohim of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy chariots with the sword, and I am the only one left. And Jehovah said unto him, Return on thy way to the wilderness of Damascus. See, King David used to rule out of Damascus, it was Israel. And when thou comest, anoint Hazael to be king over Syria. That there would be an olive oil anointing. And Jehu, the son of Nimshi, shall thou anoint to be king over Israel. And Elisha, the son of Shaphat of Abba Meholah, shall thou anoint to be prophet to a prophet in the room, in thy room. And it shall come to pass that him that escapeth the sword of Hazael shall Jehu slay, and him that escapeth from the sword of Jehu shall Elisha slay. Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which hath not kissed him, the statue. So he departed thence and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat. Now, I want to tell you, the rabbis in the Talmud teach the people that because Elijah said that I'm the only one left, and God said, no, there's 7,000, that God punished them and he has to attend supernaturally the circumcision of every Jewish boy. And that's all poppycock. It's not true, I guarantee it. So he departed thence and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat, who was plowing. He was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him, and he with the 12th. And Elijah passed by and cast his mantle upon him. He threw the mantle down on him, kind of like anointing-ish, maybe, but not exactly, but different. And he left the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, let me, I pray thee, kiss my father and mother, and then I will follow thee. And he said unto him, go back again, for what have I done to thee? And he returned back from him and took a yoke of oxen and slew them and boiled their flesh with the instruments of the the wood from that, and gave unto the people, and they did eat. And he arose and went after Elijah and ministered unto him. So he went as an assistant, you would say. So we'll stop here and kind of cover a few things. Let me just see what that message was that popped in. We're expecting a delivery of something that's really important, and it's not coming. It's been getting delayed, so please pray a delivery where expecting show up. It hasn't come yet, and they keep telling us tomorrow, and we need it. So Elijah knew who he was, but he still got fearful. He didn't run around with the people. He lived in the upper level of the widow's house. He wasn't going out and partying with them, He knew he could shut the water. He knew when God told him it would rain again. He didn't know what he was going to do with Elisha. Elijah asked him for a double portion of his spirit, and he said, that's a big ask. I don't know. But if I throw my mantle down, you'll get it. And then he went up in a whirlwind and threw his mantle down. The signal was the chariot from heaven, the company car came, but he went up to heaven in a whirlwind. I think the chariot was to let him know that this whirlwind was coming from heaven. And he never died. So flesh and blood could not inherit the kingdom of God. So we would have had to revert over back to a spiritual body to go up to heaven, or the heavenly body, I expect. Did he have a heavenly body like Yeshua? Well, he would have been glowing, and I don't think you see that. We're not told that he did. I don't know everything. I don't think so. He killed Jezebel's priests by his own hand. He's a warrior, too. But what did he do? He did what he's going to do now, in these days. He got the people of Israel to turn correctly to the Lord, away from their nonsensical, phony beliefs and stuff like that. Same thing will happen again. But the people of Israel are going to be tested. And during the second 70, and when the second 70 of Daniel 9:24 is over, it's going to take you to Gog and Magog, as they like to call it, Ezekiel 38:39, and Zechariah 14, and Ezekiel 8-11, and a lot of them are going to fall away. But those that are loyal to the Lord will have a mark, the Lord's name, most likely placed on their forehead, and nothing will happen to them. That's in specifically in Ezekiel chapter 9. So it's going to be different, Okay, so he's basically the same. Basically the same. He's preparing the way for Yeshua. who's going to come here. That means all his enemies are going to be made his footstool when he comes down to earth, because that's when he could stop sitting at the right hand of God the Father. Sit, there's Psalm 110:1. Sit thou at my right hand until I make your enemies your footstool. So he uses his brother Elijah and Enoch, also a son of God, the brothers of Yeshua, to do it. So what? He empowers them. They don't do it on their own. He does, basically through them, with them, and so forth. So when all that happens, then, Yeshua will come down to earth with New Jerusalem. So he's turning the hearts of the fathers to the sons and the sons to the fathers and everybody towards the Lord. That is true believers. And the bad ones are going to get cut off. The enemies of Israel will be cut off. The bad ones in Israel that are serving the unclean spirits will get cut off. Since Jezebel was in Israel, her priest could have been like the rabbis from Israel or elsewhere. See if I have any questions popping up. Oh, this thing's so hard to use. Okay. Oh, I don't know if Netanyahu's got Jezebel's spirit, but he's a creature after Satan's own heart. Well, I think you would say that the angels ministered to Elijah like they ministered to Yeshua. Okay, so what could I tell you? Let's do a prayer for all of us. We'll agree for the prayer. Okay, my Heavenly Father, Yehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers and their households. I pray that we all would be happy, healthy, and whole, with strength, stamina, and endurance, and your healing and recuperative power would be flowing through us, and we would keep getting healed. I pray we would be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole, and our animals and pets would also. And I pray we would have a better command and grip and understanding and knowledge of the scriptures. I pray you would help us walk in the true gospel and spread it to the right people at the right time in the right way, and illuminate the right people at the right time in the right way. And I pray that we would have adequate finances, and then some, we have excess. I pray that you would pour your spirit out on us, and we would have your shalom and your peace, your calm and your rest and your patience. And we would have no trouble or problems sleeping, and the unclean spirits would not be allowed to surveillance us or learn about us from our communications in person, on the phone, on the internet, or any way, shape, or form, and would not be able to surveillance us and observe us in our houses, out of our houses, in our vehicles, with or without our animals and pets, and so forth. And I pray you would lift off of us all the works of the unclean spirits and the people that serve the unclean spirits that cause us problems, stumbling blocks, hindrances, delays, money issues, any kind of problems from them, lift it off us. And I pray we don't get any dreams or visions from any unclean spirits. And I pray we don't get any thoughts, ideas, notions, feelings, or darts of the enemy from any of the unclean spirits. And I pray for good health for all of us as well. And I pray for the gifts of the Spirit to flow in and through and out of us, and signs and wonders, and that we could shortly, soon meet together in person. And I come to Israel as well, and I pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and I submit this prayer to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you all can agree with this. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. Thank you.